There
The
are
guards are coming.
choices that
We
carve
must
your
act
life
now.
How many?
into
We can't
distinct
fight them all.
territories
Enough.
before
Follow me
and
or stay
after
to die.
innocence
Lead on. You
and
must
knowledge,
listen.
safety,
Danger
and
is
risk.
near.
What kind of
For
danger?
Princess Thalia
The
of
shadows
the
hunt. They
Stonefang
come for
clan,
you.
that
We
choice
must act
arrived
now.
in
The
a
eastern
dungeon
flank is
on
vulnerable.
an unremarkable morning,
That's a heavy risk.
wrapped
The
in a
terrain is
simple
treacherous.
declaration
A risk we
of
must
4
take. See,
words
this secures the
that would
pass.
reshape 2 kingdoms. She pointed at a prisoner and said, "I want that one, by choice." She didn't know he was royalty. He didn't tell her, and that silence would become the crack through which war would nearly pour. The dungeons beneath Stonefang Keep smelled the way all dungeons smell: metal and moisture and the particular rot of hope decomposing. But Princess Thalia barely noticed. She'd been visiting these depths since her 13th year, when other noble orc daughters were mastering the intricate dance of court politics and memorizing the 100 formal greetings required for diplomatic functions. Thalia preferred the dungeons. Down here, pretense died quickly. Pain stripped people to their essential selves, and she found that honesty more bearable than the elaborate lies that flourished in throne rooms. Her boots struck stone with military precision as she walked. Leather and iron, practical and plain. She'd refused the ceremonial armor her mother kept trying to force on her. "I'm not a decoration," she told Queen Zara 3 weeks ago. "I'm a soldier who happens to have been born in a palace." Her mother's response had been a long, tired sigh. The guards straightened as Thalia approached. One dropped his dice. She had that effect on people not because she was particularly intimidating, at 5'8", shorter than most orc warriors, but because she carried her mother's authority like a second skin. Queen Zara's daughter, future leader. The weight of expectation made people nervous. "New prisoners from the Highland raid," Thalia asked Captain Grimm, who stood with the rigid posture of someone whose spine had forgotten how to relax decades ago. "Aye, Princess. 23 humans, caught attempting to cross Thornwood Pass without permission." Grimm's scarred face was a map of old battles. Most of them scouts. A few merchants who claimed they didn't know about the border closure. "Claims are cheap." Thalia moved along the cells. Most prisoners looked exactly like prisoners, broken, dirty, counting days in darkness. Standard. Expected. Then she saw him. Cell 12. A young human man sat cross-legged on stone, back straight, hands resting on his knees. Not defiant, not defeated, simply present, as if he were meditating in a temple instead of rotting in a cell. He had dark hair that fell past his ears, gray eyes that held steady when she stopped, and shoulders that suggested he knew his way around a training yard. There was something about his stillness, something that didn't match the torn clothes and dirt smudged across his jaw. Thalia stopped walking. "That one," she said. Grimm's scarred eyebrow rose. "Princess, the human in 12, I'm claiming him." The silence that followed had texture. Weight. The kind of quiet that forms when someone says something that sounds simple, but everyone knows is complicated. "For interrogation," Princess Grimm asked carefully, "as a personal attendant." Thalia tilted her head, studying the prisoner. He was watching her now, those gray eyes unreadable. "I need someone to manage my correspondence, organize my library, assist with administrative tasks I find tedious." "He's a prisoner of war, Princess." "Not a Paul. He's a prisoner who can read, presumably." "Can you read?" This last question directed at the human. The prisoner stood slowly. He was tall for a human, almost 6 feet, nearly her height. When he spoke, his voice was steady and educated. "I can read, write, calculate figures, speak 3 languages." 3 languages? Impressive for a... Thalia glanced at Grimm. "What does he claim to be?" "Says his name is Marcus, son of a mill owner from the eastern provinces, traveling to visit family when our patrol picked him up." Marcus, the miller's son. Thalia tested the name. Human names always sounded soft to orcish ears, like they were missing syllables. "Well, Marcus, it appears you're now employed. Captain Grimm will have you cleaned and brought to the palace administrative wing. I'll inform my mother. Princess Queen Zara will have concerns about you taking a human prisoner as a personal..." "My mother has concerns about everything, Grimm. If I waited for her approval, I'd still be learning proper embroidery techniques and pretending to enjoy conversations about trade tariffs." Thalia turned toward the stairs. "He's unarmed, educated, and currently has limited options. What's he going to do, assassinate me with paperwork?" Grimm looked at the prisoner called Marcus. Marcus looked back. Something wordless passed between them, the universal language of This is going to become a problem, isn't it? As you command, Princess, Grim said. What neither of them knew, what couldn't possibly know, was that Marcus wasn't a miller's son. He was Prince Marcus Ashford, only son of King Edmund, heir to the entire northern human realm. He'd been leading a covert diplomatic reconnaissance when they'd been ambushed by an orc patrol that had no patience for diplomatic credentials. His guards had died fighting. He'd been captured. And in the 3 heartbeats between capture and interrogation, Marcus had made a calculation: if they knew he was a prince, they'd execute him immediately or use him to extract impossible concessions from his father. So he'd claimed to be a miller's son. He'd hidden the gold signet ring his mother had given him before she died, the one engraved with the royal crest, in a hidden pocket sewn into his shirt lining. And he'd waited to see if he'd survive long enough to escape. He hadn't expected a princess to conscript him as a secretary. As Grim unlocked the cell, Marcus touched the hidden pocket. The ring was still there, still secret. His mother's voice echoed in memory. Sometimes the bravest thing a prince can do is pretend to be nothing. You're fortunate, Grim muttered, as she attached iron cuffs to his wrists, not tight enough to hurt, but present enough to remind him what he was. Princess Thalia is unconventional. For an orc, you'll probably live longer with her than in this cell. High praise, Marcus said. Wasn't praise, was observation. Grim pulled him toward the door. One thing, human, if you threaten the princess, if you even think about threatening her, I won't kill you quickly. I'll do it slowly enough that you'll beg to come back here. Clear. Crystal. The walk from dungeon to palace took 30 minutes. 30 minutes for Marcus to map exit routes he'd probably never use. 30 minutes to wonder if his father had noticed his absence yet. 30 minutes to realize that being a personal attendant might actually provide perfect cover for gathering intelligence about orc military capabilities. And 30 minutes to wonder what kind of orc princess collected human prisoners like administrative assistants. The palace was different from human castles. Where human architecture reached skyward in spires and towers, orc structures grew horizontally, sprawling across cliff sides and canyon walls built into the mountain itself. The aesthetic wasn't beautiful in the delicate human way. It was beautiful in the way a mountain was beautiful. Permanent, inevitable, ancient. Silas the healer was waiting in a side chamber. He was mute, had been since birth, according to whispered stories, but his expressive face did more talking than most people's mouths. When he saw Marcus, both eyebrows shot up in an expression that clearly communicated, "Another one, really? Princess's orders," Grim said. "Clean him up." Silas grunted. Concerned grunt gestured to a stone basin site and began preparing hot water with movements that suggested he'd performed this exact task many times before and found it tedious every single time. The bath was the first hot water Marcus had felt in 8 days. He tried not to show how good it felt, tried not to let his guard down. But there was something about Silas's complete disinterest in conversation that made the silence almost comfortable. Silas handed him soap gesture, used this clean clothes gesture, wear these, and then did something unexpected. He pointed at Marcus's chest where the hidden pocket rested and raised one eyebrow, questioning eyebrow. Marcus's heart stopped, but Silas just grunted. Knowing grunt shook his head. "I won't tell," and turned away to organize bandages that didn't need organizing. Some secrets apparently were safe with people who never spoke at all. When Marcus was clean and dressed in simple attendance clothes, still rough, but worlds better than prison rags, Grim escorted him to the administrative wing. The corridors were filled with orcs conducting daily business. Warriors, servants, nobles, children chasing each other while their parents shouted warnings to slow down. It was disturbingly normal. These were supposed to be monsters, savages. The stories Marcus had grown up with painted orcs as bloodthirsty creatures who lived only for conquest and destruction. But here was an orc mother teaching her son to tie his boots properly. There was an elderly orc reading spectacles perched on his nose as he studied a scroll. Over there, 2 orc merchants argued about wool prices with the passion of people who cared deeply about wool prices. They were just people, green-skinned people with tusks and cultural differences, but people. The realization settled uncomfortably in Marcus's chest. Princess Thalia's office was smaller than he'd expected. No throne room or grand receiving hall, just a large workspace with weapons mounted on one wall, books stacked on every available surface, and windows overlooking the canyon below. It was the room of someone who read more than they slept, and trained more than they socialized. Thalia stood by the window, still in her practical leather armor. She didn't turn when Grim entered. "Leave us," she said. Grim hesitated. "Princess?" "He's unarmed, Grim, and I've been training in combat since I was 7. I think I can manage one exhausted human." Talia finally turned. "Besides, if he tries anything, you'll hear me scream. These walls are thick, but not that thick. Your mother will hear about this regardless. My mother hears about everything I do whether I want her to or not. Might as well give her something interesting to complain about." Talia smiled. It wasn't a cruel smile, just tired. "Go, I'll summon you if needed." Grim left with visible reluctance. The door closed. Marcus and Thalia stood 15 feet apart, studying each other. "So," Thalia said finally, "Marcus the miller's son, are you going to try to kill me?" "No." "Are you going to try to escape?" "Eventually, probably." "Honest, I appreciate that." Thalia moved to her desk more accurately, her desk-shaped mountain of papers and books. "Most servants lie about the escape thing. They say, 'Never, princess. I love being captured, princess. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity, princess.' I prefer honesty." "Happy to provide it. Don't be smug, you're still property." But her tone lacked the edge that should accompany that statement. "Sit," she said. Marcus sat in a chair clearly built for orcish proportions. His feet barely touched the floor. Thalia pulled out parchment and a quill. "I need to write a formal report from my mother explaining why I claimed a prisoner. She'll require justification. Help me make this sound official." "You want me to help you justify enslaving me? When you put it that way, it sounds terrible." Talia tapped the quill against her tusk, a gesture Marcus would learn was her thinking tell. "How about this? In an effort to improve human-orc relations through cultural exchange and strategic mercy, I have selected a prisoner for administrative service, thereby demonstrating that orcs can be magnanimous victors." "That's actually not bad. I'm quite skilled at making questionable decisions sound reasonable. Family trait." Talia began writing. "My mother does it with military strategy. I do it with everything else." The scratching of quill on parchment filled the silence. Marcus watched her write. Her handwriting was surprisingly elegant for someone who probably spent more time holding swords than pens. "Why did you really choose me?" Marcus asked. Thalia stopped writing. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then, "You look different." "Different how?" "Everyone else in those cells looked broken, resigned, already dead inside." She set down the quill. "You look like you were just waiting. Not for rescue, not for death, just waiting for whatever came next with the patience of someone who knew how to endure." She met his eyes. "That's rare, especially in prisoners. I wanted to understand why. Maybe I'm just stubborn." "Stubbornness is useful. I value useful people." Marcus thought about his next words carefully. "What exactly will I be doing as your attendant?" "Managing my correspondence. Most of it is tedious, trade agreements, diplomatic niceties, nobles complaining about border disputes that don't matter. You'll read them, summarize them, draft responses for my approval. You're giving a prisoner access to sensitive diplomatic communications. I'm giving an educated prisoner access to the boring diplomatic communications. The sensitive ones I handle myself." Thalia leaned back. "Besides, you're smart enough to know that trying to use that information against us would just get you killed. Self-interest will keep you loyal. For now." She wasn't wrong. Marcus had to admire the pragmatism. "What about this?" Thalia held up the parchment she'd been writing. "Does this justify my decision adequately?" Marcus read it. The language was formal, politically astute, and made claiming a prisoner sound like a strategic masterstroke rather than an impulse decision. "It's good," he admitted. "Your mother will still question it, but this gives her political cover to approve." "Excellent. You're already useful." Talia sealed the report with wax. "You'll sleep in the attendants' quarters. Small room private. You'll eat with the household staff. You'll have limited freedom within the administrative wing, but cannot leave the palace grounds without escort. Clear, clear. Good. Now let's see if you can actually read 3 languages or if that was just impressive lying." She pulled out a letter written in what Marcus recognized as Mercantile Common, the trade language used across the eastern provinces. "Translate this," she said. Marcus scanned the letter. It was a grain merchant requesting updated tariff information. Simple. He translated it aloud into Orcish. Thalia's eyebrows rose slightly. Your Orcish accent is terrible, but you got the meaning correct. She pulled out another letter. This one. It was in Old Imperial, the formal language of human courts. Marcus translated it into Orcish, this time catching himself on pronunciation. Better, Thalia said. She seemed genuinely pleased. Third language? Elvish trade dialect, Marcus said. Though I'm rusty, we don't get many elven traders in the eastern provinces. We don't get many here either, but the skill is noted. Talia stood. I'll show you to your quarters. Tomorrow we'll begin properly. I have about 2 weeks of correspondence backlog that needs addressing. She led him through corridors past guards who watched him with suspicion into the attendant's wing. The room she showed him was small but functional. A bed, a small desk, a window overlooking the canyon. It was better than a cell. Much better. Why are you doing this? Marcus asked. Really? Talia paused in the doorway. Because I'm tired of hating people I don't know. Because the war between our kingdoms is stupid and wasteful and built on grudges from before either of us was born. Because, she trailed off then shrugged. Because I wanted to see if a human could be useful instead of just being an enemy. Consider yourself an experiment. That's honest. You wanted honesty, there it is. There it is. She turned to leave, then stopped. Marcus, yes, don't make me regret this. She left before he could respond. Marcus sat on the bed. It was soft, clean. The window let in moonlight. His hand went to the hidden pocket where the signet ring pressed against his ribs. Every moment he didn't tell the truth was another stone added to a wall that would eventually have to come down. But not tonight. Tonight he would survive. Tonight he would be Marcus the miller's son. And he would hope that tomorrow he'd still be alive to regret the lie. The first week passed in a blur of paperwork and careful navigation. Marcus quickly learned that Princess Talia hadn't been exaggerating about the correspondence backlog. There were trade disputes, noble complaints, requests for audience reports from border patrols, and an astonishing number of letters from orc clans asking when Thalia would consider marriage alliances. They're very persistent, Marcus noted, sorting through the 5th marriage proposal that week. They're very annoying, Thalia corrected. She was reviewing military reports at her desk, red ink marking notes in the margins. Every clan with a son thinks an alliance with the royal family will bring them power. They're not wrong, but they also don't bother to ask if I want to marry their sons. Do you, want to marry a stranger for political advantage? Not particularly. Thalia signed a report and moved to the next. What about you? Any arranged marriages in your future? Marcus nearly dropped the letter he was holding. What? I assume Miller's sons get married eventually. Do your parents have someone picked out for you? A nice Miller's daughter, perhaps. Right, Miller's son, his cover story. No arranged marriage, Marcus said carefully. My father believed in letting me choose. Progressive for a Miller. He had his moments. They worked in companionable silence. Over the past week, Marcus had discovered that Thalia preferred silence to small talk. She would work for hours without speaking, occasionally asking his opinion on something, but generally content with quiet efficiency. It was surprisingly comfortable. This one, Thalia said, holding up a letter. The clan chief from Ironforge. He's requesting military support for a border dispute with his neighbor. What's your assessment? Marcus read the letter carefully. Both clans are accusing the other of encroachment. Neither has proof. My assessment is that they're both looking for an excuse to fight because they've been feuding for 3 generations and neither wants to be the first to back down. Agreed. Talia made a note. I'll recommend my mother assign a mediator rather than troops. Anything else? The Ironforge chief mentions that he has 3 daughters of marriageable age. That's the 4th paragraph buried in the dispute details. Thalia groaned. Of course he does. So this isn't about borders at all. It's another marriage ambush disguised as a legitimate request. Probably. I hate politics. Talia threw the letter onto the later pile with more force than necessary. Why can't people just say what they actually want instead of wrapping everything in 7 layers of diplomatic nonsense? Because direct communication is considered rude in formal contexts. It's stupid. Agreed. But stupid things that are often traditional. Talia looked at him, really looked at him. You're very good at this, reading between the lines, understanding political subtext. Are you sure you're just a miller's son? Marcus's heart skipped. My father dealt with merchants and suppliers. You learn to read people when your livelihood depends on negotiations. It wasn't entirely a lie. King Edmund had taught Marcus that reading people was essential to leadership. He just learned it in a palace instead of a mill. Useful skill, Thalia said, apparently satisfied. Next letter. They worked through lunch. Thalia ordered food brought to the office, simple fare but more than adequate. Bread, cheese, dried meat, fruit. They ate while continuing to sort correspondence. Tell me about your home, Thalia said suddenly. The mill. What was it like? Marcus's hand froze halfway to his mouth. Why do you want to know? Because I've spent my entire life in palaces and military camps. I've never seen a mill. I'm curious. So Marcus described a mill, not from experience, but from memory of a place he'd once visited during a diplomatic tour. He talked about the wheel turning in the river, the constant sound of rushing water, the smell of ground grain, the dust that got into everything. He made it sound real because he needed it to be real. Thalia listened with genuine interest. It sounds peaceful. It was, most days. Do you miss it? Yes, Marcus thought, but not a mill. He missed the palace library where he'd spent hours reading philosophy. Missed the training yard where Sir Aldrich had taught him that smaller fighters could beat stronger ones with proper technique. Missed his father's study where they'd discuss governance late into the night. Sometimes, he said instead, mostly I miss freedom. You have more freedom than most prisoners. I'm still a prisoner. Fair point. Talia set down her food. What would you do if I released you? The question caught Marcus off guard. Why would you release me? Hypothetically, if you weren't useful anymore, or if I decided this experiment had run its course. What would you do? Marcus thought carefully. Go home, see my family, try to forget this ever happened. And what would you tell them about being captured by orcs? That I was treated better than I expected? Better than you expected. Talia smiled slightly. Low bar, accurate bar. They returned to work, but something had shifted. The conversation had been too personal, too honest. Marcus found himself wanting to tell her the truth, wanting to explain who he really was, why he was really here, what was really at stake. But fear held him back. Fear that the truth would get him killed. Fear that the fragile peace they'd built would shatter. So he stayed silent, and the lie grew heavier. That evening, Talia asked him to accompany her to the training yard. I need to clear my head. You can watch or participate. Your choice. Marcus chose to watch. The training yard was built into a canyon overlook, open to the sky. A dozen orc warriors were sparring, some with weapons, some hand-to-hand. Thalia picked up a practice sword and faced off against a massive orc warrior, twice her size. What followed was brutal and beautiful. The orc had strength and reach. Thalia had speed and precision. She moved like water, redirecting his attacks, finding openings, landing strikes that would have been devastating with a real blade. After 10 minutes, the orc yielded. Thalia was breathing hard but grinning. Again. Princess, I have to be able to walk tomorrow. Excuses. But she set down the sword. Marcus, come here. Marcus approached cautiously. You know how to fight, she asked. A little? Show me. I'm not armed. Neither am I anymore. She gestured to the training circle. Come on, let's see what a miller's son knows about defending himself. It was a test. Marcus knew it. He could refuse, claim ignorance, stay in character as a miller's son who'd never received formal combat training. But he couldn't resist. They faced each other in the circle. Thalia moved first, a quick jab to test his reflexes. Marcus blocked, redirected, stepped aside. Her eyes widened slightly. She attacked again, faster this time. Marcus defended, fell into the pattern Sir Aldrich had drilled into him for years. Block, parry, counter. Don't overcommit. Use your opponent's momentum. They traded blows for 30 seconds before Thalia called stop. That's not self-defense, she said, breathing harder. That's training. Formal training. Where did a miller's son learn to fight like that? Marcus scrambled for an explanation. There was a retired soldier in our village. He taught the young men basic defense. Bandits on the roads, you know. Basic defense doesn't include half the techniques you just used. He was a very thorough teacher. Talia studied him, suspicion clear in her eyes. But then she shrugged. Lucky for you. If you hadn't known how to defend yourself when you were captured, you probably would have died in the initial fighting. Lucky, Marcus agreed, but he could see doubt forming in her mind. Questions accumulating. The lie was developing cracks. That night, Marcus lay in a small bed and stared at the ceiling. 3 weeks in Stonefang Keep. 3 weeks of pretending to be someone else. 3 weeks of getting closer to a woman who would hate him when she learned the truth. He should escape, should find a way out, get word to his father, end this charade. But part of him didn't want to leave. Part of him wanted to see where this impossible situation would lead. That part was becoming dangerous. The second week brought new complications. A messenger arrived from the northern human kingdoms, a diplomatic courier who'd been given safe passage to deliver a message to Queen Zara. The message was simple and devastating. King Edmund was mobilizing his armies. Marcus was in Thalia's office when the news reached her. He watched her face drain of color as she read the military report. My mother needs to see this, she said quietly. Come with me. The throne room was more practical than ostentatious stone walls hung with clan banners, a large table covered in maps, and at the head of it all, Queen Zara. She was shorter than Thalia, but carried twice the presence. Gray threaded through her black hair. Scars marked her arms. When she spoke, generals leaned forward to catch every word. She was currently listening to military reports from 3 different officers. Mother, Thalia interrupted. A breach of protocol, but the report in her hand justified it. Queen Zara dismissed the officers with a gesture. What is it? King Edmund. He's mobilizing his entire military. Northern intelligence suggests they're marching toward our borders. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Why, Zara asked. We've maintained the ceasefire. No incursions, no provocations. The report says, Talia hesitated, then continued. They're saying someone important was captured. Someone whose loss King Edmund considers worth starting total war over. Marcus's blood turned to ice. His father. His father was coming. Zara's eyes narrowed. How important would someone have to be for a king to risk total war? Very important, Thalia said. Royalty possibly, but according to our records from the Highland raid, we captured no nobility. Just soldiers and civilians. Then either King Edmund is lying to justify expansion, or Zara's gaze swept the room and landed on Marcus, or one of our prisoners is lying about who they are. The silence that followed was the kind that happens right before avalanches. Bring me all prisoners from the Highland raid, Zara commanded. Now, 10 minutes later, 12 surviving prisoners stood in a line in the throne room. Marcus was one of them, his heart hammered against his ribs. The hidden pocket felt like it was burning into his skin. Queen Zara walked slowly down the line, examining each face. When she reached Marcus, she stopped. Name, she asked. Marcus, Your Majesty, son of a mill owner. Occupation before capture. I was traveling to visit family. And you just happened to be traveling through a militarized border zone during a time of heightened tensions. Marcus kept his voice steady. I didn't know about the tensions. We're just common folk. We don't follow political developments. It was a weak answer. He knew it. Zara knew it. She turned to Thalia. This is the one you claimed as an attendant. Yes, Mother. He's been useful. Organized my correspondence, managed administrative tasks. Has he done anything that suggests he's more than a miller's son? Thalia hesitated. Marcus saw the calculation in her eyes. The fight in the training yard, his educated speech, his understanding of politics. No, Thalia said finally. Nothing unusual. But doubt had entered her voice. Zara studied Marcus for a long moment. Then she gestured to the guards. Separate interrogations for all of them. Use standard procedures. If one of these is nobility, pretending to be common, I want to know, by nightfall. As guards moved to take them away, Marcus caught Thalia's eyes. She was staring at him with an expression he couldn't read. Suspicion, concern, both. The interrogation room was what you'd expect, cold, sparse, designed to make you feel small and helpless. 2 orc interrogators asked Marcus the same questions over and over, looking for inconsistencies. Where was he born? Who were his parents? Where exactly was this mill? What routes had he traveled? Why was he in the Highland Pass? Marcus had prepared for this. had memorized details about a fictional village, a fictional family, a fictional life. He answered consistently calmly with the bored patience of someone telling the truth. But he could see doubt in the interrogator's eyes. After 3 hours, they brought in someone new. An elderly orc woman with sharp eyes and a face like weathered leather. "I'm Oracle Nethys," she said. "I read truth." Marcus's stomach dropped. He'd heard of orcs who could sense lies, shamans who claimed to read the patterns of truth and deception in a person's spirit. Most of it was superstition, but not all of it. Nethys sat across from him, stared into his eyes, asked simple questions. "Is your name Marcus?" "Yes." Truth, it was his name. "Are you the son of a mill owner?" "Yes." Lie, but said with conviction. "Did you know about the border tensions when you crossed into our territory?" "No." Lie. He'd known exactly what he was doing. Nethys's eyes narrowed. "There's something wrong here, something off, but I can't pinpoint what." She stood. "Keep him separated from the others. I want to consult the bones." They returned Marcus to a holding cell. Not the original dungeon, but a smaller cell in the administrative wing. Isolated, under guard. Hours passed. Marcus sat in darkness and wondered if this was it. If his deception was about to crumble. The door opened. Thalia stepped inside. The guard started to follow, but Thalia waved him back. "Leave us." Princess Oracle Nethys specifically said, "I'm not going to hurt him, and he's not going to hurt me. Leave. Us." The guard left reluctantly. Thalia stood in the doorway, backlit by corridor light. Marcus couldn't read her expression. "Tell me the truth," she said quietly. "Right now, no more lies. Who are you?" Marcus's heart hammered. This was the moment, the choice. He could lie again, try to maintain the fiction, or he could trust her. "Marcus," he said carefully. "My name is Marcus. And the rest? The rest is complicated. Try me." Marcus stood, met her eyes. "I can't tell you. Not because I don't want to, because if I do, it will change everything. And I don't know if you're ready for that truth." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give right now." Talia stepped into the cell, close enough that he could see the frustration and confusion in her eyes. "Do you know what's happening? King Edmund is bringing an army that will destroy everything. Thousands will die. My home, my people. And you're standing here with secrets." "I know." "Then help me. Give me something I can use to stop this." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because the truth is more dangerous than the law." The words echoed off stone. Thalia stared at him. "You are someone important," she said slowly. "You're not a miller's son. You're, what, a noble, oh, a spy." Marcus said nothing. "Yeah, answer me." "I can't." "I can't or won't. Both." Thalia's hand shot out, grabbed the front of his shirt, pulled him forward. "People are going to die, Marcus. Whatever secret you're protecting isn't worth that." And then her hand touched something. The hidden pocket. The hard outline of the ring inside. Her eyes widened. "What's this?" she asked. "Nothing." "It's not nothing." She reached for the pocket. Marcus tried to stop her, but she was stronger. She ripped the pocket open. The signet ring fell into her palm. For a moment, she just stared at it. Then she opened the ring's hidden compartment. Inside, the royal crest gleamed in lamplight. A crowned lion, the symbol of the northern human realm. Thalia looked from the ring to Marcus. "This is the royal crest." "Yes." "This ring belongs to the royal family." "Yes." "How does a miller's son have a ring that belongs to the royal family?" Marcus swallowed. "Because I'm not a miller's son." The world seemed to hold its breath. "Who are you?" Thalia whispered. "Prince Marcus Ashford, only son of King Edmund, heir to the northern human realm." The ring fell from her hand, clattered on stone. "You're the prince," she said, not a question, a statement of reality sinking in. "I am. And you've been lying to me for 3 weeks." "I have. About everything." "About everything." Talia stepped back like he'd struck her. "Why, because I thought you'd kill me if you knew the truth. So you lied. You looked me in the eyes day after day while I trusted you, confided in you, treated you like a person instead of a prisoner, and you lied. I was trying to survive by making me care about someone who doesn't exist." Her shout filled the cell. "Do you know what this means? Your father is bringing an army because of you? because I captured you, because I claimed you as an attendant instead of recognizing what you were. This war is my fault because I believed your lies. Thalia, don't. Just don't. She picked up the ring, stared at it like it was a piece of a puzzle that didn't fit. My mother needs to see this, now. She turned toward the door. I'm sorry, Marcus said. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Talia stopped, didn't turn around. You're sorry. You're sorry. She laughed bitterly. Do you know what sorry is worth when my people die, when your father burns my home because I was stupid enough to trust you? She left. The door slammed, locked. Marcus sat on the cold floor and put his head in his hands. The truth was out. The lie was over. And now war was coming. Everything he'd feared had come to pass. Everything he'd tried to prevent was happening anyway. And the look in Thalia's eyes, the betrayal, the hurt, the rage that would haunt him forever. Outside the cell, he heard shouting, running footsteps, alarm bells. The storm was here, and he had brought it. Queen Zara's throne room transformed into a war council within minutes. Generals poured in, maps were unrolled, scouts reported updated intelligence on King Edmund's approaching army. And at the center of it all stood Princess Thalia, holding a signet ring that had rewritten their entire understanding of the situation. Say that again, Queen Zara commanded. Her voice was dangerously quiet. He's Prince Marcus Ashford, Thalia repeated. The words tasted like ash. Son of King Edmund, heir to the Northern Realm. The prisoner I claimed as my personal attendant is the reason we're about to face total war. The silence that followed was absolute. Then General Blackthorn, the largest orc Marcus had ever seen, with arms like tree trunks and a face mapped with battle scars, slammed his fist on the table. How long have you known? I found out 10 minutes ago. Thalia set the ring on the table like it was evidence at a trial. He's been lying since the moment we captured him. And you didn't suspect this from Commander Steelwind, a female orc whose strategic brilliance was legendary. 3 weeks and you noticed nothing unusual. I noticed he was educated, skilled in combat, understood politics. Thalia's voice was tight. I thought he was a clever commoner. I didn't think he was royal because royals don't get captured in minor border skirmishes. They don't travel without proper escorts. They do, interrupted a new voice, when they're on covert diplomatic missions that go wrong. Everyone turned. A human man stood in the doorway flanked by orc guards. He was older, perhaps 60, with gray hair and the bearing of someone who'd spent decades in royal courts. His clothes were travel-worn, but fine quality. Who are you? Zara demanded. Sir Aldrich Pemberton, advisor to King Edmund, former tutor to Prince Marcus. The man bowed with precise correctness. I was captured yesterday when I came under diplomatic banner to negotiate. Your border guards were not receptive to diplomatic immunity. Speak quickly, human. Why should I not have you executed as a spy? Because I came to tell you the truth that your prisoner has been hiding. Sir Aldrich's eyes swept the room. Though it appears that truth is already known. He spotted the ring on the table. His expression shifted relief, resignation, concern. Where is he? Aldrich asked. In a holding cell, Thalia said. Under guard. Is he harmed? No. Should I have harmed the prince who started a war through deception? He didn't start anything, Aldrich said quietly. He was trying to prevent exactly this, the war, the bloodshed. He hid his identity because captured princes typically end up executed or used as hostages to extract impossible concessions. Instead, his father is threatening genocide, General Blackthorn growled. Tell me how that's better. King Edmund doesn't know Marcus is alive, Aldrich explained. We lost contact after the ambush. Found bodies, but not his. Edmund assumes the worst. He's not attacking out of strategic calculation. He's attacking out of grief and rage. He thinks his son is dead, and he wants revenge. The implications settled over the room like snow. So if we reveal that Prince Marcus is alive and unharmed, Commander Steelwind said slowly, the war ends, Aldrich finished. Edmund isn't a warmonger. He's a father who's lost his wife and believes he's lost his son. Give him proof Marcus lives and he'll recall the army. Why should we believe you? Zara asked. Because I've known Edmund for 30 years. Because I helped raise Marcus. Because I'm standing here unarmed at your mercy telling you the truth while knowing you could kill me for it. Aldrich's voice was steady. I have no reason to lie. Every reason to end this before thousands die. Zara studied him. Then she turned to her generals. Assessment. If he's telling the truth, returning the prince ends the war, Steelwind said. If he's lying, we've given up our best leverage. And if we don't return the prince, Zara asked, then King Edmund's army reaches our borders in 4 days, Blackthorn said grimly. 20,000 soldiers, full cavalry, siege equipment, supply chains that suggest they're prepared for a year-long campaign. We can defend, but casualties will be catastrophic on both sides. How many dead? First month conservative estimate 15,000 human, 12,000 orc. If it drags into a siege, 30,000 human, 25,000 orc. If Edmund calls in his allied kingdoms, it becomes extinction-level warfare. The numbers hung in the air like smoke. Thalia felt sick. All because I captured one man. Because generations chose hatred over understanding. Aldrich corrected gently. You're not responsible for this princess. You're just the spark that lit a fire that was always waiting to burn. Philosophical comfort doesn't bring back the dead, Thalia said bitterly. No, but strategic thinking might prevent the dead from accumulating. Aldrich looked at Zara. Your Majesty, I propose a solution. I'm listening. Return Prince Marcus, publicly, with full honor. Send him to his father with a message that this was a mistake, a misunderstanding, and that you seek peace rather than escalation. That makes us look weak, Blackthorn objected. That makes you look wise, Aldrich countered. Strength is knowing when to fight. Wisdom is knowing when not to. The orc people are renowned warriors. Show the world you're also capable of strategic mercy. Pretty words, Steelwind said, but King Edmund has already mobilized. He's already made threats. Backing down makes him look weak to his own people. Unless he's given a reason that preserves his dignity, Aldrich said. Tell him his son was treated with respect, that Princess Thalia personally ensured his safety, that this was an unfortunate accident of war, not a deliberate provocation. Give him a path to de-escalate without losing face. Zara was quiet for a long moment. Then, bring the prince here, now. Guards left to retrieve Marcus. While they waited, Thalia stood by the window staring out at the canyon. Her mind was a storm. 3 weeks of conversations. 3 weeks of growing to trust, to care about someone who'd been lying to her the entire time. She felt like a fool. Princess, Aldrich's voice quiet beside her, she didn't turn. If you have come to apologize for your prince, save it. I came to explain if you'll listen. I'm not interested in explanations. Then I'll be brief. Aldrich stood beside her, also looking out at the canyon. Marcus is a good man, honest usually. Kind. He lied to you because he was terrified. And then he kept lying because he was stupid. And then he kept lying because he didn't know how to stop. That's your defense. He was scared and stupid. No, that's my explanation. My defense is different. Aldrich turned to face her. My defense is that despite the lies, everything else was real. The conversations you had, the trust you built. The person you came to know that was Marcus. Not the prince, just Marcus. The man he is when he's not wearing a crown. The man who let me care about a fiction. The man who cared about you back. I know him well enough to know the difference between duty and genuine affection. What he felt for you was real. How can I believe anything about him is real when it all started with a lie? Because lies about identity don't change character. He could have claimed to be a merchant, a scholar, a soldier. The name and station don't matter. What matters is how he treated you, how he behaved, whether he showed you respect and kindness. Did he? Thalia thought about late nights working together, comfortable silences, moments of laughter over some ridiculous diplomatic complaint, the way he looked at her like she was interesting instead of intimidating. Yes, she admitted quietly. He did. Then that was real. Hold on to that. Because in about 2 minutes, he's going to walk through that door and you're going to have to decide if you can forgive him. Why would I forgive him? Because the alternative is war, and I don't think either of you wants that. The door opened. Guards brought Marcus in. He looked tired, defeated. When he saw the assembled council, he straightened slightly, some instinct of royal training overriding exhaustion. His eyes found Thalia. She looked away. Prince Marcus Ashford, Queen Zara said formally, do you confirm your identity? I do, Your Majesty. And you've been concealing this identity for 3 weeks. Yes. Why? Marcus looked at the assembled leaders. Because I believed I'd be executed if you knew the truth. Captured royalty are either killed or used for leverage. I chose survival over honesty. And in doing so, you nearly triggered a war that will kill thousands. Yes. Marcus's voice was steady, but Talia could hear the guilt beneath it. I know. And I'm sorry, for what little that's worth. Sorry doesn't prevent casualties, Blackthorn growled. I know that too. Zara studied him. Sir Aldrich suggests we return you to your father. End this before it escalates. What do you say to that? I say you should do it immediately. Don't negotiate. Don't demand concessions. Just send me home and end this. You're eager to leave. I'm eager to stump a war I started. You didn't start it, Talia said before she could stop herself. Everyone looked at her. You didn't start it, she repeated. You just made a choice that had consequences you couldn't predict. That's different. Is it? Marcus met her eyes. Because it feels like I'm responsible for everything that's about to happen. Guilt is a luxury we can't afford right now, Zara said sharply. What matters is stopping the war. Sir Aldrich, you believe returning the prince will accomplish this? I do, Your Majesty. And you, Prince Marcus, if we return, will you advocate for peace? With every resource I have. Even if it means standing against your own father's desire for revenge. My father doesn't want revenge. He wants his son. Give him that, and he'll choose peace. Zara was quiet. Then, we'll prepare transport. You'll leave at dawn with full escort. Sir Aldrich will accompany you, and you'll carry a message from me to your father. What message? Marcus asked. That this was a misunderstanding, that you were treated with honor, that the Orcish people seek peace, not escalation, and that we expect him to respond with equal wisdom. He will. I'll make sure of it. See that you do. Zara stood. Because if this fails, if your father attacks anyway, then we'll fight. And we'll remember that we extended mercy when your people showed us none. Understood, Your Majesty. Guards take the prince to suitable quarters. He's no longer a prisoner, but a diplomatic guest. Treat him accordingly. As guards moved to escort Marcus out, he looked at Talia one more time. I'm sorry, he said quietly, for lying, for everything. Talia didn't respond, couldn't respond. The hurt was too fresh, the betrayal too raw. Marcus left, the door closed. Princess, Zara said, a word, alone. The room cleared. Only mother and daughter remained. You care about him, Zara said. Not a question. I did. Past tense. Don't lie to yourself. It makes decisions harder. Talia looked at her mother. What am I supposed to do? Forgive him for lying. Pretend it doesn't matter. You're supposed to decide what matters more, your hurt feelings or preventing a war. That's not fair. Leadership rarely is. Zara's voice softened slightly. I know you're angry. You have every right to be, but anger is a luxury right now. What we need is strategy. What strategy? We're returning him. War's over. Maybe, or maybe King Edmund refuses our overture. Maybe he sees returning his son as weakness and attacks anyway. Maybe there are factions in his court pushing for war regardless of Marcus's wishes. Zara moved to the map table. We need backup plans, and one of those plans involves you. Me how? You've spent 3 weeks with the prince. You know him better than anyone else here. You understand how he thinks, what motivates him, what he values. I thought I did. Turns out I knew nothing. You knew the parts that matter, character, integrity, whether he's someone who can be trusted to honor agreements. He lied to me for 3 weeks. How is that integrity? He lied to survive. That's different from lying for advantage. Zara studied her daughter. Do you believe he'll advocate for peace? Thalia thought about it, really thought about it, past the hurt and anger to the person she'd come to know. Yes, she admitted. He hates unnecessary violence, hates waste. He'll do everything he can to stop the war. Then we send him home with our message and hope his influence is enough. Zara paused. But if it's not, if war comes anyway, I want you prepared. Prepared for what? to lead, to make impossible choices, to do what must be done even when it hurts. Zara's expression was unreadable. You're my heir, Thalia. Someday you'll sit where I sit, and you'll have to make decisions that balance mercy with strategy, idealism with pragmatism. This situation with the prince, it's training for that. I don't want this kind of training. No one ever does, but here we are. They stood in silence, mother and daughter, both carrying the weight of decisions that could reshape kingdoms. Send him home, Thalia said finally. Give peace a chance, and if it fails, we'll fight. Agreed. Zara moved toward the door, then paused. One more thing, daughter. Yes, if you do forgive him, if you decide his lie doesn't negate everything else, don't wait to tell him. War has a way of taking away second chances. Zara left. Thalia stood alone in the throne room, surrounded by maps showing two kingdoms on the brink of mutual destruction, and wondered if forgiveness was even possible when trust had been shattered so completely. That night, Thalia couldn't sleep. She lay in her bed staring at darkness, replaying 3 weeks of conversations. Every joke, every shared silence, every moment when she'd felt herself growing to care about the human prisoner who'd seemed so different from everything she'd been taught. Had it all been manipulation? A calculated performance? No. She knew performance when she saw it. Court was full of performance. Marcus had been genuine. She was certain of that, but genuine while lying about who he was, which complicated everything. Around midnight, she gave up on sleep, dressed, left her quarters. The guards outside Marcus's new room straightened when she approached. I need to speak with the prince, she said. Your mother said no visitors. My mother isn't here. I am. Open the door. They hesitated, then obeyed. Marcus's room was nicer than where he'd been held before, a proper bed, furniture, windows, still guarded but treated like a guest rather than a prisoner. He was sitting by the window staring out at the night, turned when she entered. Thalia, we need to talk. I know. He stood. I'm sorry it isn't enough. I know that, but I don't know what else to say. How about the truth, the actual truth? This time, what do you want to know? Everything. Who you really are, why you were really here, what you're not telling me. So Marcus told her. Everything about being a prince who hated pomp and ceremony, about his father who'd become overprotective after his mother's death, about the diplomatic reconnaissance mission that was supposed to establish peaceful contact with the Orc clans, about the ambush that killed his guards, about the split-second decision to lie about his identity. I told myself it was survival, he said quietly. And it was at first, but then it became about protecting you too. Protecting me. If you'd known I was a prince and treated me accordingly, your mother would have questioned why. Other orcs would have noticed. It would have put you in an impossible position, either turn me over for political leverage or be accused of betraying your people by showing favoritism to human royalty. So you lied to protect me. I lied to protect both of us. And then I kept lying because I didn't know how to stop. Because every day that passed made the truth harder to tell. Because I was a coward who chose comfortable deception over difficult honesty. Thalia sat in a chair across from him. Did you mean anything you said to me, or was it all just performance? Everything I said was true, except my identity. I meant every word of every conversation. Every opinion I shared about peace and understanding and finding better ways than war that was real. The person you came to know that was me. Just me. Not the prince. Just Marcus. How do I know that? How do I know what's real when it all started with a lie? You don't. That's the price of my deception. I broke your trust, and now I have to live with you never being able to fully believe me again. He met her eyes. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know that the time we spent together mattered to me. More than it should have. More than was wise. What does that mean? Marcus hesitated. Then it means I fell in love with an orc princess who treated me like a person instead of a prisoner. It means I spent 3 weeks wishing I could tell you the truth and being too scared of losing what we had. It means I made terrible choices for reasons that felt good at the time, but looked cowardly in hindsight. The confession hung in the air between them. You love me, Thalia said flatly. I do. While lying to me, yes. That's the most backward thing I've ever heard. I know. You can't love someone while deceiving them. Love requires honesty. I know that too, which is why what I felt doesn't matter, because it was built on a foundation of lies, which means it was never real in the first place. Talia wanted to agree, wanted to tell him he was right, that love built on deception was worthless, that they could never trust each other. But part of her, the part that had spent 3 weeks growing to care about him, wasn't ready to dismiss everything so easily. When you leave tomorrow, she said quietly, what happens to us? There is no us. You'll go back to being a princess. I'll go back to being a prince, and we'll both forget this ever happened. Is that what you want? What I want doesn't matter. What matters is stopping the war and making sure your people don't pay for my mistakes. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give. They sat in silence. Outside, the night deepened. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called. I should go, Thelia said. Probably. She stood, walked toward the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, she said without turning around. I believed you, every word, every conversation. I thought I was getting to know someone real, someone honest, someone I could trust. You were. The lying about my identity doesn't change that I was honest about everything else. It changes that I can never be sure. She left before he could respond. Back in her room, Talia finally allowed herself to cry. Not from anger, from loss. Because whether or not Marcus had meant everything he said, whether or not his feelings were real, the simple truth was that trust once broken couldn't be easily repaired. And without trust, nothing else mattered. Dawn came too quickly. The palace courtyard filled with preparation. Horses readied, supplies packed. An escort of 12 orc warriors prepared to accompany Prince Marcus to the border, where he'd be transferred to his father's forces. Queen Zara watched from a balcony, her face unreadable. Thalia stood in the courtyard, ostensibly to oversee the departure, but really because she couldn't bring herself to not see him one more time. Marcus emerged in clean clothes, his possessions returned. He looked like a prince, now spine straight, chin up, the bearing of someone used to authority. It was jarring compared to the quiet attendant who'd organized her correspondence for 3 weeks. Sir Aldrich stood beside him, prepared for the journey. Your Majesty, Marcus said, bowing to Queen Zara, thank you for your mercy. I'll ensure my father understands this was a misunderstanding and that you seek peace. See that you do, Prince Marcus, Zara's voice carried across the courtyard. And know that if war comes anyway, we'll defend our home with everything we have. It won't come to that, I promise. Promises from princes who lie are difficult to trust. Marcus flinched. Fair, but I'll prove my word regardless. He turned to Talia. Princess, thank you for everything, for treating me with humanity when you had no reason to. I won't forget it. Talia wanted to say something cutting, something that would hurt him the way his deception had hurt her. Instead, she said, go home, Marcus, stop the war, and try to be better at honesty next time. I will, I promise. There's that word again. This time I mean it. He mounted his horse. The escort formed around him. And then they were leaving, riding through the gate down the canyon path toward the border and whatever waited beyond. Thalia watched until they disappeared from sight. You did well, Zara said, having descended from the balcony. Maintaining composure, showing strength. I don't feel strong. That's when you need to show it most. Zara put a hand on her daughter's shoulder, a rare gesture of affection. You cared about him? I thought I did. Now I don't know what I felt. Feelings don't require certainty. They just are. Zara squeezed gently. Come, we have work to do. Prepare for peace, but plan for war. They walked back into the palace together, and Talia tried very hard not to think about gray eyes and quiet conversations and the way Marcus had looked at her like she was remarkable instead of royal. Tried very hard and failed completely. 2 days later, a messenger arrived from the border. Prince Marcus had reached King Edmund's forces. The message had been delivered, and King Edmund had recalled his army. The war was over before it started. Relief swept through Stonefang Keep like a wave. Warriors stood down. Supplies were unrationed. Children who'd been kept inside for safety poured back into courtyards. Thalia should have felt triumphant, should have felt like they'd won something. Instead, she felt empty. It worked, she told her mother that evening. Marcus kept his word. He did, which suggests his lies were motivated by fear rather than malice. An important distinction. Does the distinction matter? For what? For whether I can ever trust him again. Zara looked at her daughter. Do you want to trust him again? I don't know, maybe, if things were different. Things are rarely different, daughter. They're just the way they are. The question isn't whether circumstances are ideal. It's whether you're brave enough to navigate them anyway. That sounds like you're encouraging me to forgive him. I'm encouraging you to decide what you actually want instead of what fear tells you to want. Before Talia could respond, a guard entered. Your Majesty, message from King Edmund, delivered by the same messenger who took our prince home. Zara opened the message. Read it. Her eyebrows rose. What does it say? Thalia asked. King Edmund thanks us for our mercy, confirms the army has stood down, and Zara looked at Talia with an unreadable expression. He's proposing a formal peace summit, neutral location, representatives from both kingdoms to negotiate a lasting peace agreement. That's good. It's unprecedented, and he's specifically requested that you attend as our representative. Me? Why me? Because according to King Edmund, Prince Marcus speaks very highly of your wisdom and diplomatic potential. He believes you're uniquely positioned to help bridge the gap between our peoples. Thalia's heart did something complicated. Marcus said that, apparently, along with a personal message for you. Zara handed over a sealed letter. I haven't read it. Your correspondence, your choice. Talia took the letter with trembling hands. That night, alone in her room, she opened it. The handwriting was Marcus's. She recognized it from the weeks he'd helped with her correspondence. Princess Thalia, I know apologies are insufficient. I know trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to repair. But I wanted you to know that everything I told you was true. And every word, every conversation, every moment of genuine connection. The person you came to know, that was me. The real me. The parts of myself I hide behind protocol and royal duty. You saw me in ways no one else has, and I saw you the same way. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope you'll attend the peace summit. Not for me, Mars, for our peoples. Because you understand something that most leaders don't, that our enemies are just people on the other side of arbitrary lines, and that peace is possible if we're brave enough to try. You're the bravest person I've ever met, even when you're scared, especially then. Whatever you decide, I hope you know that the time we spent together changed me. Made me believe that a better world is possible. Thank you for that. Marcus. Thalia read it 3 times, then folded it carefully and placed it in her desk drawer. Tomorrow she would tell her mother she'd attend the summit. Not because Marcus asked, because it was the right thing to do. But tonight she let herself feel the complicated mess of anger and hurt and something that might have been hope. Because maybe, just maybe, trust could be rebuilt. And maybe broken things could be made whole if both people were willing to try it. The Peace Summit was held in Crossroads Keep, a neutral fortress built centuries ago on the border between human and orc territories. It had been abandoned for decades, but both kingdoms had sent crews to make it functional again. A symbol King Edmund had written of rebuilding what war had destroyed. Thalia arrived with a delegation of 12. Queen Zara had stayed in Stonefang to maintain order, trusting her daughter with this crucial negotiation. Show them what orc leadership looks like, she'd said. Fierce but fair, strong but not cruel. No pressure. The human delegation was larger 20 representatives, including nobles, military advisors, and diplomats. All of them looked at the orc contingent with varying degrees of suspicion and curiosity. And at the center, Prince Marcus. He looked different, more formal. His clothes were rich but not ostentatious. His hair was cut shorter. He carried himself with the authority of someone who'd been born to rule. But when his eyes met Talia's across the council chamber, something flickered. Something familiar. The first day was ceremonial. Formal greetings, establishing protocols, speeches about the importance of peace that everyone pretended to believe. It was excruciating. But Thalia played her part, spoke eloquently about mutual understanding and the need to move beyond old grudges. Received polite applause. That evening there was a formal dinner. Human and orc delegates sat at a long table carefully separated by culture. The conversation was stilted, awkward, full of the kind of polite small talk that meant absolutely nothing. Thalia sat at one end, Marcus at the other. They didn't speak. After dinner, Thalia escaped to the fortress battlements. She needed air, space, a moment where she wasn't performing diplomacy. I used to think peace would be exciting, a voice said behind her. Turns out it's mostly tedious. Talia didn't turn. You shouldn't be here. Neither should you. Delegates are supposed to be mingling, building relationships. I've built enough relationships for one day. Marcus moved to stand beside her at the wall. Below, the border valley stretched into darkness. Somewhere out there, two kingdoms waited to see if this experiment in peace would succeed. You look well, Marcus said quietly. You look different. I'm wearing a crown now, metaphorically. It changes things. Does it? Yes and no. He paused. I missed you. Don't. Don't what? Don't make this personal. We're here for diplomacy, for peace, not for... She gestured vaguely between them. Whatever this is. Fair enough. Marcus was quiet for a moment. For what it's worth, I meant what I wrote in the letter, all of it. I know you did. That's what makes it hard. What makes what hard? Staying angry at you. It would be easier if I could just hate you, but I can't, because I know you're genuine. I know you regret the lies. I know you're trying to make amends. Talia finally looked at him. But knowing all that doesn't mean I trust you. I understand. Because you keep acting like we can just pick up where we left off. Like the lies don't matter anymore because you've apologized. That's not what I think. Then what do you think? Marcus took a long breath. I think I broke something precious. I think apologies aren't enough to fix it. I think you have every right to never trust me again. And I think despite all of that, I'm going to spend every day trying to prove I'm worthy of a second chance. Why bon? Because you're worth it. Because what we had, brief as it was real. And because I'm not giving up on the possibility that we could have something again. Something honest this time. That's arrogant. That's hopeful. There's a difference. Despite herself, Talia almost smiled. You always had an answer for everything. Occupational hazard of being educated. They stood in silence, watching stars emerge. The summit isn't going well, Thalia said eventually. Both sides are posturing. No one wants to be the first to make real concessions. I noticed. We need a breakthrough. Something that shows both kingdoms that peace is possible. I agree. Do you have suggestions? One, but you're not going to like it. Try me. Talia turned to face him fully. We need to be the example. You and me. Show both kingdoms that humans and orcs can work together, can trust each other, can build something better than what we inherited. You mean work together publicly as a team. I mean demonstrate that the old hatreds don't have to define us, that a human prince and an orc princess can collaborate without killing each other. Marcus understood immediately. You want to use our relationship, whatever it is or was, as a political tool. I want to use the truth as a weapon for peace. Is that so terrible? No, it's actually brilliant. Marcus smiled slightly, but it means spending time together, being seen together. People will talk. Let them talk. Talking is better than fighting. Agreed. Marcus extended his hand. Partners in impossible diplomacy. Thalia looked at his hand, remembered the first time they'd met, how much had changed, how much was still broken. She took his hand. Partners, but if you lie to me again, I'm throwing you off these battlements. Fair terms. The next day, Thalia and Marcus requested a private working session to develop a preliminary framework for the peace treaty. It raised eyebrows, the orc princess and the human prince working alone together. But no one objected. They spent 6 hours in a small conference room, maps and documents spread across a table, hammering out details. It was like the weeks in Stonefang Keep, but different, more careful, more formal. They were both aware that trust had to be rebuilt step by step. But the work was good. Marcus had strategic insight into human politics that Thalia lacked. Thalia understood orc clan dynamics that Marcus struggled with. Together, they created a framework that addressed concerns from both sides. This could actually work, Marcus said, reviewing their draft. It's not perfect, but it's a foundation. Perfect is the enemy of good, Thalia quoted. My mother's favorite saying. Wise woman. She has her moments. And they presented the framework to the full assembly the next day. It was met with skepticism initially, but as they walked through each provision, trade agreements, border protocols, mutual defense pacts, cultural exchange programs, skepticism turned to consideration. By the end of the presentation, both delegations were asking substantive questions rather than raising objections. Progress. That evening, word came that several delegates wanted to continue discussions over dinner. Informal conversations, they said, often achieved more than formal sessions. So dinner became working sessions. Human and Orc delegates actually talking to each other instead of at each other, discovering shared concerns, finding common ground. Thalia watched Marcus across the room, fielding questions from an Orc general about human military capabilities. He was honest, open, and somehow managed to make sensitive information sound like useful context rather than strategic intelligence. He's good at this, Commander Steelwind observed, standing beside Thalia. Your prince. He's not my prince. Isn't he? The way he looks at you suggests otherwise. That's just... Thalia trailed off. She didn't know how to finish that sentence. Just what? Just genuine affection from someone who clearly cares about you. Steelwind smiled slightly. You know what I think? Think you're both dancing around feelings neither wants to admit because it's complicated and scary and crosses every boundary we've been taught to respect. That's very perceptive. I'm old. Observation is my main skill now. Steelwind gestured at the room. Look at them, humans and Orcs sharing a meal, laughing occasionally, finding ways to communicate. This is what peace looks like. Messy, awkward, but possible. We're a long way from actual peace. Every journey begins with awkward first steps. The question is whether we're brave enough to keep walking. That night, Thalia couldn't sleep again. The weight of the summit, the pressure of representing her people, the complicated mess of feelings surrounding Marcus, it was all too much. She found herself back on the battlements at midnight and found Marcus already there. We need to stop meeting like this, she said. Probably, but apparently neither of us can sleep. Too much thinking. Too much responsibility. Marcus turned to face her. Can I ask you something? You can ask. I might not answer. Fair. He hesitated. Do you think we can actually do this, build peace between kingdoms that have hated each other for centuries? I don't know, maybe, if we're lucky and smart and manage not to mess it up catastrophically. That's not very reassuring. I'm not here to be reassuring. I'm here to be realistic. Marcus laughed quietly. I miss this, your brutal honesty. As opposed to convenient lies. The words came out sharper than intended. Marcus flinched. I'm sorry, Thalia said immediately. That was unfair. No, it was accurate and deserved. Marcus looked out at the valley. I think about it constantly, you know. The lies, how I hurt you, what I destroyed. You didn't destroy anything, didn't I? We had something real, something good, and I ruined it through cowardice. You didn't ruin it. You just complicated it. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I stand, we went from genuine connection to this awkward dance where we pretend to be professional colleagues while both knowing there's all this unspoken history between us. That's exactly what we are. Professional colleagues with history. Is that all you want us to be? Thalia was quiet. Then I don't know what I want. Part of me wants to forgive you completely and pretend the lies never happened. Part of me wants to stay angry forever because it's safer than risking being hurt again. And part of me wants something I can't even name because it's too complicated to put into words. That's honest. You asked for honesty. I did. Marcus turned to Juan. Can I try something? It might be stupid, might make everything worse, but I need to try. What? This. He kissed her. It was gentle, careful, asking permission rather than taking. And for half a second, Thalia froze. Then she kissed him back. Because despite everything, the lies, the betrayal, the broken trust, she'd missed this. Missed him. Missed the feeling of connection that had felt so rare and precious. When they pulled apart, both were breathing hard. That was stupid, Thalia said. Incredibly stupid. We can't do this. Absolutely not. People will talk. They already are. This complicates everything. Everything was already complicated. They kissed again, longer this time, less careful, more honest. This doesn't mean I forgive you, Talia said when they finally stopped. This doesn't mean I trust you again. I know. This just means I'm tired of pretending I don't have feelings I don't know what to do with. That's fair. And if you lie to me again, I won't. I promise. And before you say promises don't mean anything, let me prove it means something this time. How? By being completely brutally honest about everything, even when it's uncomfortable, even when the truth makes things harder. I'm done with lies, Thalia, done with hiding. I'm just going to be myself, flawed, imperfect, but honest, and hope that's enough. It might not be. I know, but I have to try. They stood together on the battlements, hands intertwined, looking out at two kingdoms that were learning to see each other differently. We're taking a huge risk, Thalia said quietly. Worth it. Ask me again when we know if this peace thing actually works. The summit continued for 2 more weeks. 2 weeks of negotiations, compromises, and slowly building trust. 2 weeks of Marcus and Thalia working together publicly, demonstrating that collaboration across cultural lines was possible. And 2 weeks of them figuring out what they were to each other now. It wasn't the easy connection they had had before. Trust had to be rebuilt slowly. But there was honesty now. Real honesty. Marcus told her about the pressure of being a prince, the expectations he struggled to meet, the fear of failing his people. Thalia told him about the isolation of royal life, the constant performance, the loneliness of leadership. They were real with each other in ways they hadn't been before. On the final day of the summit, the peace treaty was signed. It wasn't perfect. Both sides had made concessions that felt too large. Both sides worried it wouldn't hold. But it was signed. Humans and orcs stood together as King Edmund and Queen Zara, who traveled to Crossroads Keep for the ceremony, affixed their seals to the document. This is a beginning, King Edmund said formally, not an ending. Peace is not a destination, but a journey we must choose to walk every day. Agreed, Queen Zara replied, and that journey begins with trust, hard-earned, carefully maintained, built on actions, not just words. She looked meaningfully at Thalia and Marcus. Everyone in the room understood the subtext. After the ceremony, there was a celebration. Music, food, humans and orcs mingling with increasing ease. It wasn't perfect friendship, but it was a start. Marcus found Thalia on the battlements again. Their place, apparently. We did it, he said. We survived it anyway. That's not what I meant. I know. Thalia smiled slightly. We did do it, built something that might actually last. Think we'll see each other again after this? The treaty includes regular diplomatic meetings, so yes, professionally. Just professionally. That depends. On what? On whether you can prove trust is something that can be rebuilt, whether honesty is sustainable, whether we can have something real instead of something based on lies and fear. I'll prove it, Marcus said quietly. However long it takes, I'll prove that I'm worth trusting again. You'd better, because I'm terrible at being patient with people who disappoint me. Noted. They stood together watching the celebration below. Two people from different worlds who'd found each other through case and deception and were now trying to build something honest. It wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks, moments of doubt, times when old wounds reopened. But they'd survive war and diplomacy and the complicated mess of feelings neither fully understood. They could survive anything. 6 months later, Thalia traveled to the northern human realm for a diplomatic visit. Official business, reviewing trade agreements, addressing border concerns, building on the foundation established at Crossroads Keep, but also unofficial business. Marcus met her at the palace gates. He'd grown more confident in his role as prince, more comfortable with authority, but when he saw her, something in his expression softened. Princess Thalia, welcome to our kingdom. Prince Marcus, thank you for the hospitality. Very formal, very proper, completely professional. Until they were alone in a private corridor and Marcus pulled her into an alcove. I missed you, he said. It's been 6 months, not 6 years. Still missed you. I might have missed you too, slightly. He kissed her. She let him, then pushed him away gently. We have work to do, trade negotiations, cultural exchange discussions, very important diplomatic business. All of which can wait 5 minutes. Marcus? Fine, work first. This later. There's no this. We're colleagues. Nothing more. You're a terrible liar. which I appreciate given my history. They worked together for a week, productive, efficient, professional, but also finding moments to just be themselves, to talk like they had in those early days at Stonefang Keep. I told my father about us, Marcus said one evening over dinner, about what happened, the lies, the complications. Everett Bank. What did he say? He said relationships built on difficult truths are stronger than relationships built on comfortable lies. That I'd learned a hard lesson, but an important one. Wise man, your father. He also said, if I hurt you again, he'd personally ensure I regretted it. So there's that. Talia laughed. I like him already. He wants to meet you properly. Not as diplomatic representatives, but as whatever we are. And what are we? I'm hoping you'll tell me. Talia thought about it, about the past months of building trust slowly, about honest conversations and growing confidence that Marcus meant what he said, about allowing herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, this could be real. We're people trying, she said finally, trying to build something honest, trying to prove that different worlds can coexist, trying to be brave enough to love across boundaries. So we're together. We're figuring out what together means. But yeah, in whatever complicated, messy, imperfect way, yes. Marcus smiled, actually smiled. Not the political smile, but the genuine one that reached his eyes. I can work with that. The peace held, not perfectly. There were incidents, disputes, moments when old hatreds flared. But the framework established at Crossroads Keep provided mechanisms for resolution. Humans and orcs learned to talk instead of fight. And at the center of it all, two people who'd started with lies and betrayal, but chose to build something honest. A year after the summit, Marcus proposed. Not dramatically. Just a quiet moment in the library where they'd been working on expanding the cultural exchange program. Marry me, he said. Talia looked up from her documents. What? Marry me, officially, make this ridiculous, complicated relationship permanent. That's the least romantic proposal I've ever heard. You want romantic, fine. Marcus got down on one knee. Thalia, princess of Stonefang, fierce warrior, brilliant diplomat person who saw past my lies to who I actually am, will you marry me and make me the happiest fool in 2 kingdoms? That's marginally better. Is that a yes? That's a let me think about it. You're killing me. Good, builds character. But she was smiling, and 3 days later, she said yes. They married in a ceremony held at the border. Humans on one side, orcs on the other. 2 kingdoms coming together to witness something that would have been impossible a year before. Queen Zara and King Edmund stood together as parents of the couple. Former enemies now bound by the relationship of their children. This is insane, Zara muttered to Edmund. Completely, Edmund agreed, but beautiful. If they hurt each other, they won't. They've learned. The hard way, but they learned. The ceremony was simple. Vows spoken in both languages. Promises to be honest, to trust, to build something better than what they'd inherited. When Marcus kissed his new wife, cheers rose from both sides, human and orc. Together, not perfectly unified, not without lingering doubts, but together. That night at the reception, Thalia and Marcus stood together, watching their peoples mingle with increasing ease. We did it, Marcus said. We actually did it. We survived it. That's different from succeeding. Always the pessimist. Always the realist. Marcus took her hand. I love you. I know I've said it before, but I need you to know I mean it. Completely. Honestly. With everything I am. I know, I love you too. Even though you lied to me. Even though you broke my trust. Even though you made everything impossibly complicated. Because I learned to be better. Because you tried to be better. That's what matters. They danced, 2 people from different worlds who'd found each other through the worst circumstances and chosen to build something impossible. Peace didn't happen because they fell in love. It happened because they chose honesty over comfortable deception, because they demonstrated that different cultures could understand each other, because they were brave enough to trust when trust seemed impossible. The end of the war wasn't a moment. It was a series of small choices, small acts of courage, small risks taken for the possibility of something better. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes broken things can be made whole. Sometimes lies give way to truth. Sometimes the princess who claimed a prisoner and the prince who hid his identity can find their way to something real. Not perfect, not easy, but real. And in the end, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.